Chapter 2184. For others, they didn't have the time and energy to cultivate and browse through too many cultivation techniques. If other cultivators were to obtain the reward for the first place on the Earth board, they would be able to choose some of the best cultivation techniques and secret techniques from the Earth Rank Secret Pavilion and cultivate them. But for Su Zimo, it was different. Wu Dao's original body was deducing the next step of cultivation. He didn't reject any cultivation techniques or secret techniques. He didn't need to cultivate them. He only needed to use Wu Dao's furnace to smelt all the cultivation techniques and secret techniques. From there, he could find what he needed and inspiration. No matter what, Su Zimo was determined to obtain the first place on the Earth board this time. In the academy, they cultivated for a while. As the 10,000-year meeting approached, the academy activated the teleportation array. The 3 Sky Immortal Elders of the Academy brought Su Zimo, Qi Hong Infanta and dozens of others to the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom through the teleportation array. If they flew normally, the distance between the two places was very far. Even a level 9 Sky Immortal would need a few years to reach the King City of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. But with the teleportation array, it only took a few dozen breaths. Su Zimo and the others felt their vision blur. It was as if countless lights and shadows flashed past them. They felt weightless and their whole bodies were being pulled and twisted. Then, everyone landed on the ground and returned to normal. When they arrived at the King City of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, they could clearly feel the difference between this place and the academy. The temperature here was much higher than in the academy. It was a little stuffy. Everywhere they looked was fiery red. All the buildings were made of red bricks. Some of the buildings were still burning with fine flames that did not burn for a long time. The Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom was filled with flames. "We are back again." Qi Hong Infanta returned and took a deep breath. She looked satisfied. She had lived in the King City since she was young and was already used to the environment here. "Greetings, fellow Taoists." After everyone from the academy appeared, the guards near the teleportation array walked over quickly and cupped their hands. These guards were clad in fiery red armor. They were like pieces of burned iron, emitting a scorching heat. These guards' gazes swept over the waists of Su Zimo and the others, and they immediately recognized their origins. "Fellow Taoists from Chengkuan Academy, you should be here to participate in the meeting. Duke Xieling has already ordered me to take you to the palace to rest," a guard said in a deep voice. "No need." Qi Hong Infanta waved her hand and said, "I will bring them around. Elder Zhong, Elder He, this is the first time many of the people from the college are here. Let me bring everyone around Monarch City. As for the palace to rest in, I know where it is. When the time comes, I will bring everyone there." "All right." Elder Zhong nodded with a smile. Princess Qi Hong gently patted Su Zimo's shoulder and joked, "Let's go. I'm familiar with this place. Big sister will bring you around the royal city." The other cultivators in the academy agreed to it out of curiosity too. Su Zimo smiled and nodded. When they walked out of the teleportation array area and arrived on the streets of Monarch City, they could feel the hustle and bustle of Monarch City. Because of the meeting, Monarch City was filled with cultivators from all over the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Most of them were Earth Immortals. Even so, the wide streets of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom were not crowded. On both sides of the streets, cultivators from different sects and factions had set up stalls to sell various items. The Divine Firmament Immortal Domain's 10,000-year meeting was a cultivation meeting that was held once every 10,000 years. The Earthboard battle was only the final highlight. Most cultivators were not qualified to participate in the Earthboard battle. To them, the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain's 10,000-year meeting was more important. It was a meeting for cultivators to exchange and trade. Princess Qi Hong brought Su Zimo and the others along the main street of Monarch City. Along the way, she explained some of the interesting places in Monarch City to them. "Exalted Immortal, we saw this iron sword first. Furthermore, we have already paid for it with elemental spirit stones. How can you snatch it?" At that moment, a commotion could be heard from the side of the street not far away. "Bulsh *T, when did our young master snatch something from you?" Someone cursed loudly. Then there was a slap. It sounded like someone had been slapped. That person continued to curse. Our young master gave you double the amount of elemental spirit stones, but you are still not satisfied. This slap is to teach you a lesson. Su Zimo glanced over and suddenly frowned. He paused. This kind of thing happened every day. He did not intend to pay attention to it. However, he saw someone familiar through the crowd. When Princess Chi Hong saw Su Zimo looking over, she said, "The one who hit them is the Shui clan. They are considered a big clan in the divine firmament immortal domain. Someone from the Shui clan will be on the earth board every time." Before Princess Chi Hong finished speaking, Su Zimo had already walked over. The people from the academy looked at each other. They were puzzled and followed him. In the middle of the crowd, there were dozens of people from the Shui clan surrounding a young and handsome man. That person lowered his head slightly and carefully looked at the rusty iron sword in his hand. In front of him, there was a cultivator who looked like a servant. He was short but had an overbearing attitude. He looked at the two people opposite him, gesticulating and cursing. The two people opposite him were a middle-aged man and a young man. They were dressed in ordinary Taoist robes. The middle-aged man was a stage 4 Earth Immortal, while the young man was a stage 9 Mystic Immortal. Half of the young man's face was swollen. There was a red palm print on it that oozed blood. He was glaring at the people from the Shui clan angrily. The middle-aged man looked worried. He stood in front of the young man, afraid that he would make a big mistake. "Quickly pick up the elemental spirit stones and leave. It's better to avoid trouble. The two of you are just ordinary cultivators from the Aqua Cloud Sword sect. How can an unknown mystic sect compare to the Shui clan? Do you want to die? It's good enough that young Master Shui is willing to give you elemental spirit stones. How can you not be satisfied?" There was a burst of discussion from the surrounding crowd. Some were doing it out of kindness, while others were mocking and ridiculing. The middle-aged man sighed. He squatted down and picked up the elemental spirit stones on the ground. Although the Shui clan gave them the elemental spirit stones, they just threw them on the ground. Even if the middle-aged man was unhappy, he could only endure it. Just as his palm touched one of the elemental spirit stones, a foot stomped on it. It was fast and powerful. He couldn't dodge in time and his palm was broken. The middle-aged man let out a muffled groan. In an instant, a layer of fine sweat appeared on his forehead. He gritted his teeth and his body trembled. The Shui clan servant stepped forward and stomped on the middle-aged man's palm. Although he was just a servant of the Shui clan, his cultivation was at Earth Origin Stage Level 6, 2 levels higher than the middle-aged man. "Father!" the young man exclaimed. He stepped forward and stared at the Shui clan servant. He growled, "You dog, let go of my father." "Little Tian, shut up," the middle-aged man scolded. He slowly raised his head and looked at the Shui clan servant. He squeezed out a smile and said, "My child is too young and inexperienced. He doesn't know the rules. Please forgive him this time." Chapter 2185. Initially, I didn't intend to stoop to your level. The two of you only had to scram over here obediently and apologize to my young master. The Shui family servant stepped on the middle-aged man's palm and glared at the young man not far away coldly. "However, you have a foul mouth and dare to scold me, brat? Please calm down, exalted immortal." The middle-aged man endured the sharp pain in his hand and forced a smile. "We father and son do not want these spirit essence stones. That iron sword can be considered a gift from us to Sir Shui as an apology. I ask that high immortal to be magnanimous." Fufu. The Shui family servant chuckled gleefully and glared at the young man not far away. "Brat, hurry up and kneel down and slap yourself." The young man's face was filled with rage and his swollen cheeks were already purplish with blood. "Brat, you're still not convinced." The Shui family servant scolded as he stomped on the middle-aged man's broken hand. The middle-aged man trembled from the pain, but he did not make a single sound. When he saw that, the young man's eyes were filled with tears and he could no longer hold on. Closing his eyes, he bent his knees and knelt on the ground. All of a sudden, Before the young man's knees touched the ground, he felt a tremendous resistance that lifted his body up slowly. Stunned, the young man opened his eyes instinctively. Unknowingly, there was another person beside him. It was that person who waved his sleeves and helped him up. That person had delicate features and wore green robes. Although it had been thousands of years, the young man recognized him at first glance and exclaimed, "Brother Su, it's you." Su Zimo nodded. Although the two of them had not met for thousands of years, Su Zimo's appearance did not change much. However, Su Xiaoyan had already grown up. The two of them were the former city lord of Dragon Lake City, Su Shi, and his son, Su Xiaotian. Back then, Su Shi was the one who pointed out the direction for Su Zimo when he left Dragon Lake Planet for Azure Cloud County. "Brother Su." Su Shi turned to look at Su Zimo with joy on his pale face. He had just said 2 words when he realized something and changed his words hurriedly. "Exalted Immortal Su, it's been a long time. Remove your foot." Su Zimo looked at the Shui clan servant and said coldly, "What? You think you can threaten me just because your cultivation is 2 levels higher than mine?" When the servant of the Shui clan found out that Su Zimo was a level 8 Earth Immortal, he was not afraid at all. He sneered, "Why don't you open your eyes and see who you're talking to? Someone from the Shui clan, you've offended." Suddenly, a figure traversed a distance of 30 meters and arrived in front of the Shui clan servant in an instant. The voice of the Shui family servant stopped abruptly. Immediately after, the Shui family servant's figure was sent flying. While he was still in the air, his heart exploded, and an arrow of blood spurted out from his chest. The sound of bones cracking could be heard from his body. When the servant of the Shui clan fell to the ground, his entire body was as soft as mud. His bones and tendons had been shattered, and his internal organs had turned into a pool of blood. His entire body was severely injured and was completely crippled. Only then did the surrounding crowd react and exclaim in surprise. The cultivators of the Shui clan were shocked. They placed their hands on their storage bags, ready to take out their Dharma treasures at any time. They glared at Su Zimo unkindly. Young Master Shui, who was surrounded by the cultivators of the Shui clan, also frowned slightly and looked up at Su Zimo. Young Master Shui's gaze fell on the sect badge on Su Zimo's waist and paused for a moment. Su Zimo helped Su Shi up. Su Shi's injuries were not serious. With his Earth Immortal cultivation, he would be able to recover after resting for a while. However, the servant of the Shui clan was different. His body had been destroyed by Su Zimo, leaving only a terrified primordial spirit. He ran to young Master Shui and cried loudly, "Be careful, exalted immortal. The Shui clan is powerful. Don't drag you down because of us." Su Shi whispered with a worried expression. He knew very well that Su Zimo was a level 8 Earth Immortal. Even if the entire Water Cloud Sword sect came, they would not dare to offend this young Master Shui. One word from young Master Shui could raise the entire Water Cloud Sword sect to the ground. "Young Master, you have to avenge me." The primordial spirit of the servant of the Shui clan dimmed. He ran over and said sorrowfully, "Although I am just a dog of the Shui clan, I have to look at the master before beating the dog. This person did not give you any face at all and attacked me directly. He is looking down on the Shui clan." Before the servant could finish, young Master Shui suddenly swung the iron sword in his hand and cut the servant's primordial spirit in half. With the primordial spirit destroyed, the servant died on the spot. Even in death, the servant did not expect that he would be killed by his master. "I am Shui Yuan. Greetings, fellow Taoist. My servant was blind and offended you. I will kill him for you. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to lower yourself to his level." Young Master Shui cupped his fists toward Su Zimo and greeted him with a smile. "How should I address you, fellow Taoist?" Shui Yuan's attitude surprised Su Shi and his son. Shui Yuan was a stage 9 Earth deity. Most of the Shui clan's cultivators around him were stage 8 and stage 9 Earth deities. They were powerful. Logically speaking, Shui Yuan should not have shown any weakness. Many of the cultivators in the crowd were confused as well. They began to whisper among themselves. "Who is this person? How did he make young Master Shui back down?" The sect token on his waist looks familiar. It seems to be Qinkuan Academy. Someone exclaimed. These 4 words were like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. It instantly caused a huge commotion among the crowd. The Qinkuan Academy of the 4 major celestial sects. The disciple of the academy has shown himself. Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were shocked. Although they had heard of the 4 major celestial sects, they were too far away from them. The Water Cloud Sword sect was like an insignificant ant compared to the Qinkuan Academy. Back in Longyuan City, Su Shi could see that Su Zimo had great potential. However, he could not imagine that in just a few thousand years, this scholarly man had joined the Qinkuan Academy, one of the 4 major celestial sects. Back in Longyuan City, Su Shi's cultivation base was slightly higher than Su Zimo's. Now, the difference between the two of them was like heaven and earth. It was no wonder Shui Yuan had such an attitude. Although the Shui clan was a large celestial sect with great strength and a strong foundation, it was still slightly weaker than the Qinkuan Academy. Return that sword to them. Su Zimo did not answer Shui Yuan's question. Instead, he pointed at the iron sword in Shui Yuan's hand. Shui Yuan frowned slightly. He hesitated for a moment before he said with a smile, "Fellow cultivator, I bought this sword with elemental spirit stones. Even if you're a disciple of the academy, you can't just take it from me, right?" Naturally, he had come to participate in the 10,000-year meeting and compete for a place on the Earth board. With his means and combat strength, he should be able to rank around the 50th place on the Earth board. Therefore, when he saw that Su Zimo was only a stage 8 Earth deity, he was not afraid at all. More importantly, the Shui family had produced an even more powerful prodigy in this generation, and that prodigy was right behind him. This genius's combat strength could definitely rank in the top 20 of the Earth board. Shui Yuan was confident that he had 2 experts on the Earth board. Chapter 2186. In addition to the 2 Earth role experts, Shui Yuan dared to challenge the Academy disciples because they were in the Fiery Sun's celestial kingdom. If a serious conflict broke out, the city guards would definitely come to maintain order. This iron sword was a little strange. Since he had already obtained it, there was no reason for him to give it up. "Aren't you going to return it?" Su Zimo murmured in a calm tone. Shui Yuan smiled slightly and was about to continue talking when he suddenly felt a flash in front of him. A figure broke through the air and burst out with a suffocating aura. Su Zimo had already arrived in front of him and was only a few feet away. It was too fast. Just now, he was still a gentle and elegant scholar. In the blink of an eye, he seemed to have transformed into an ancient beast that could devour the heavens and the earth. The murderous aura was almost condensed into a substance and surged toward him. Shui Yuan's heart trembled and his expression changed drastically. He revealed his fear and his aura was instantly suppressed. "Oh no!" Shui Yuan's heart skipped a beat. At that moment, he realized that he had lost the initiative and would definitely not be able to block Su Zimo's next attack. "Retreat!" Shui Yuan's figure retreated rapidly. He did not have time to take out his Dharma treasure. His hands continuously formed hand seals and activated his divine sense to condense a divine ability. At the same time, a ghostly figure suddenly flashed behind him. The qi and blood in his body burst out, and there was the sound of waves. He raised his hand and punched toward the approaching Su Zimo. This person was Do Yuan, who could be ranked in the top 20 of the Earth roll. Do Yuan originally came from an ordinary background. However, because of his outstanding talent, the Shui family took a fancy to him and focused on nurturing him. He gradually made a name for himself in the divine firmament celestial realm. After this Earth roll battle, the Shui family was prepared to give him the surname Shui. "Get lost!" Su Zimo shouted softly. Without even looking at Do Yuan, he casually punched toward Do Yuan's fist. Bang! The 2 fists collided and the surrounding void shook. The sound of bones colliding and rubbing was extremely horrifying. Su Zimo's figure paused slightly and his feet landed on the ground, causing the long street to shake. His figure's speed increased again and he chased after Shui Yuan. Do Yuan's expression changed and he kept retreating. Every step he took landed heavily on the long street, causing heavy footsteps to ring out. To be able to take one of my punches, you're quite capable. Su Zimo said indifferently as he brushed past Do Yuan. Do Yuan originally planned to force Su Zimo back with this punch, but he simply did not expect that his punch would only cause Su Zimo to pause slightly. As for him, he was nearly sent flying away. His surging blood chi had actually been disrupted by Su Zimo's punch. The reason why he was ranked in the top 20 of the Earth Board was because of his powerful physical body. His physique was astonishing, his vitality surged, and his close combat strength was terrifying. But he didn't expect that today he would be forced back by a weak-looking scholar with a single punch. Seeing Su Zimo chasing after Shui Yuan, Do Yuan still wanted to go forward and save him. However, as soon as he took a step, he felt a surge of emotion in his chest. He hurriedly raised his sleeves and covered his face. Then, he opened his mouth and spat out an arrow of blood that sprinkled on his sleeves. At that moment, everyone's attention was attracted by Su Zimo, so no one saw that scene. Do Yuan was shocked. He was injured with just one punch. Who exactly was this academy disciple? On the other side, Su Zimo's speed was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, he caught up with the retreating Shui Yuan. His eyes were like torches as he stretched out his palm and condensed the great chaos essence palm to suppress him. Kill! Shui Yuan roared and released a great divine ability. Tao of Shura. At the same time, the Shui family guards around him also attacked. Some of them summoned their Dharma treasures, some released their immortal arts, and some condensed their divine abilities. Break! Su Zimo did not dodge the surrounding Dharma treasures, immortal arts, and divine abilities. Instead, he opened his mouth and shouted. Although this voice was not as terrifying as the Dragon Roar secret skill, it also contained the power of sound domain secret skills such as Thunderclap Kill. The surrounding Shui family guards' expressions changed drastically. The divine abilities and immortal arts that they had just condensed dissipated one after another. The Dharma treasures that they summoned fell from midair as well. The guards had pained expressions as they hugged their heads with both hands. Their ears were stinging and their minds were buzzing in a blank state. It was difficult for them to even protect themselves, let alone Shui Yuan. Su Zimo did not activate the Dragon Roar secret skill directly. On the one hand, this was his trump card and he would not use it easily. On the other hand, the Shui family guards would most likely be killed if the Dragon Roar secret skill was released. Su Zimo only wanted to teach Shui Yuan a lesson and retrieve his iron sword. He did not want to start a massacre and there was no deep feud between them. On the other side, Do Yuan's blood chi had already calmed down. He had just moved forward and before he could attack, he heard that shout. The blood chi in his body rumbled and he could not hold it in any longer. He hurriedly covered his lips and spat out another mouthful of blood. Shui Yuan, who was closest to him, shuddered as well. However, his physique was extraordinary. He gritted his teeth and withstood it forcefully. Although his great divine ability showed signs of dissipating, it did not disappear. Right then, the great chaos essence palm descended. Boom! Even a corporeal Shura might not be able to block Su Zimo's great chaos essence palm, let alone a great divine ability that was almost dissipating. Shura was destroyed by a single palm and the gigantic palm enveloped down. Unable to dodge, Shui Yuan gripped the iron sword in his hand and stabbed it in reverse. The great chaos essence palm descended. Just as it was about to collide with the iron sword, all its power dissipated. That ferocious and crushing power suddenly turned into a soft and gentle power. The change between strength and gentleness was without any sluggishness and was astonishing. Su Zimo placed his palm on the iron sword and with a twist, he snatched the iron sword away with his bare hands. At the same time, he took another step forward and reached out, pressing down on Shui Yuan's chest. You! Shui Yuan was shocked and reacted extremely quickly. His entire chest shrank as though it had caved in. At the same time, he retracted his arm and blocked in front of him. Su Zimo sneered and pressed his palm gently on Shui Yuan's arm before retreating. Sniff. Shui Yuan's arm was broken. Crack, crack, crack. Immediately after, a series of crackling sounds came from Shui Yuan's chest like beans being fried. His entire body went limp and he fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. A gigantic and clear palm print appeared on Shui Yuan's chest. Pissed. The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. Just now, Su Zimo's palm strike looked light and effortless. To think that it would possess such terrifying power. Not only did it break Shui Yuan's arm, it even shattered Shui Yuan's sternum and destroyed his heart. Both sides exchanged extremely quickly. From the moment Su Zimo attacked to the end, it took less than 4 to 5 breaths. Su Zimo was still standing at his original position without any deviation, as though he had not moved at all. His green robes were spotless without any creases. However, there was an additional iron sword in his hands. As for the Shui family opposite, it was a complete mess. Dou Yuan's expression was terrible. Many guards of the Shui family were at a loss. Shui Yuan fell to the ground heavily injured and his face was drained of blood. Such thunderous methods caused a huge commotion in the surroundings. Chapter 2187. Who is he? His skills are so terrifying that even the 2 elites on the quasi-Earth roll were suppressed by him. I'm not sure. The rankings of the Outer Sect competition have already been announced. There doesn't seem to be an Earth immortal with a scholarly temperament. More and more cultivators gathered here. Some of them recognized the other disciples of the academy but had never seen Su Zimo before. Su Zimo had been in seclusion ever since he entered the academy. He was unlike the other cultivators of the academy who were already Stage 8 and Stage 9 Earth Immortals when they entered the academy and did not need to cultivate in seclusion. Most of these Outer Sect disciples would accept many missions from the academy and train in the Divine Firmament's celestial realm. While completing the missions, they would gradually make a name for themselves. Someone suddenly said, "Don't forget that during the Immortal Sect selection 1,000 years ago, the academy took in a ruthless person." You mean that Su something? The person who killed more than 100 executioners of the Dajin celestial nation? Yes, that's him. His name is Su Zimo. The discussion in the crowd became louder and louder. What's going on? A few figures squeezed through the crowd and rushed in. When they saw the injured Shui Yuan and the others, their expressions changed. "Uncle, you're here." Shui Yuan's expression was pained as he wiped the blood from his lips. These cultivators of the Shui family were all in the Heaven Origin realm. There were 3 Stage 8 Heaven Immortals and 1 Stage 9 Heaven Immortal. Shui Yuan's uncle, Shui Qian, was a Stage 9 Heaven Immortal and was quite famous in the Divine Firmament's celestial realm. Who did this? Shui Qian shouted and followed Shui Yuan's gaze. He turned around and locked his gaze on Su Zimo with a murderous look on his face. But soon, his expression changed, and the murderous look in his eyes faded. He saw the sect token on Su Zimo's waist. That was the Qinkuan Academy's token. A disciple of the academy? Shui Qian's expression turned ugly. Sensing the change in Shui Qian, Su Zimo sighed in his heart. After he entered the academy, he went into seclusion to cultivate. After he came out of seclusion, he only fought with 2 people in the Outer Sect and had a conflict. He did not leave the academy and traveled in the Outer Sect. Only now did he experience the might of Cosmos Academy. This rank 9 heavenly immortal from a major immortal clan had already gathered his killing intent to the limit, ready to burst out at any moment. However, when that person saw the academy badge on Yi Futian's waist, his expression changed, revealing a look of fear. Since Su Zimo had stepped forward to handle this matter, no one else from the academy had interfered. Even so, Shui Qian and the others still didn't dare to act rashly. Shui Yuan and Dou Yuan had made their moves. This could be considered a competition between cultivators of the same level, so it wasn't a big deal. But if Shui Qian attacked Su Zimo, that would be the same as the strong bullying the weak. Cosmos Academy absolutely wouldn't tolerate this. The terror of the academy was also reflected in the cultivators around them. Su Zimo could clearly feel the reverence, admiration, and even worship in the eyes of the people around him. This was something that he had never experienced in the thousands of years of escaping since his ascension. He came from the lower realm. After he ascended, many cultivators viewed him as a lowly figure. But at this moment, there seemed to be a halo above his head. A disciple of the Academy. No one in the divine firmament immortal realm dared to underestimate a disciple of the Academy. A disciple of the Academy is really impressive. The Earth Roll battle hasn't even begun, but you can casually injure others? Xue Qian looked at Su Zimo with a mocking tone. I wouldn't dare. Su Zimo said indifferently, the Academy can't be compared to the Xue family. You want to snatch other people's things. How overbearing. Xue Qian frowned slightly and lowered his head to look at Xue Yuan, who was sitting on the ground. Xue Yuan was guilty and didn't dare to look at Xue Qian. Everyone saw this matter, so he didn't dare to lie. Xue Qian cursed in his heart. He knew that he was in the wrong. Today's matter would most likely be left unsettled. Why are so many people gathered here? At this moment, a dignified voice came from the distant sky. Xue Qian's eyes lit up. In the king city of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom, other cultivators couldn't fly in the sky unless they were city guards or perfected immortals. The commotion here was so big that the city guards must have arrived. He was afraid of the Academy, but the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom wasn't. The Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom was a colossus that was on par with the Qiankuan Academy. Moreover, this was the king city of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. No matter how strong a disciple of the Academy was, he had to abide by the rules of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. He couldn't make a move, but he could borrow the power of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom to teach this disciple of the Academy a lesson. At this thought, Xue Qian turned around and looked at the group of city guards in the sky. He cupped his hands and said, Greetings, Commander. I'm Xue Qian from the Xue family. Taoist Xue, I've heard a lot about you. When the commander of the king city saw that it was Xue Qian from the Xue family, his expression softened. He nodded slightly and cupped his hands in return. Xue Qian pointed at Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, Someone here used his identity as a disciple of the Academy to fight in the king city and injured many members of the Xue family. I didn't make a move because this is the king city of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom and I didn't want to cause chaos in the king city. Commander, please uphold justice for the Xue family. The king city commander frowned slightly and turned to look at Su Zimo with a troubled expression. If it was an ordinary cultivator, he wouldn't mind capturing him. At most, he would imprison him for a few days to teach him a lesson. But this was a disciple of the Qiankuan Academy, Commander Exit. Just as he was in a dilemma, a woman's voice suddenly sounded from the crowd. He subconsciously looked towards the voice and saw a woman wearing scarlet rainbow armor coming to Su Zimo's side. She smiled and said, Commander Exen, it's been a long time. Greetings, Scarlet Princess. Commander Xian's expression froze, and he hurriedly bowed. The many royal city guards behind him also bowed. Xue Qian was stunned and had a bad feeling. Scarlet Princess waved her hand and said, There's nothing major here. It's just that the Xue family's young master snatched someone else's item. My junior brother couldn't stand it and had a friendly spar with young Master Xue. It's nothing serious. This was a friendly spar? Commander Exen glanced at Xue Yuan, who was sitting on the ground, and muttered in his heart. Since young Master Xue was severely injured, he most likely wouldn't have the chance to participate in the Earth ranking contest. He had long heard that Scarlet Princess Scarlet had entered Qiankuan Academy. Now that Scarlet Princess Scarlet had appeared, he quickly retreated. So that's the case. Commander Exen nodded slightly and said, There are indeed small conflicts in the King City. As long as it's not a big deal, it's nothing much. That's right. Scarlet Princess Scarlet smiled and said, Commander Exen, you can go and patrol elsewhere. There's nothing much here and it'll be over soon. I'll take my leave. Commander Exen cupped his fists again and left with the city guards behind him. Soon they disappeared. Xue Qian suffered another setback and was so angry that he nearly vomited blood. Goodbye. Xue Qian's face turned green and purple. Eventually he squeezed out these two words. He supported Xue Yuan and left with the Xue family, disappearing into the crowd. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 2188. Qi Hong. Right then, a man's voice sounded from not far away. It was rather intimate and magnetic, and one could sense a warm power just by hearing it. Su Zimo glanced sideways and saw a white-robed man walking over slowly from the long street not far away. When he saw that person, Su Zimo was slightly stunned. The surrounding cultivators exclaimed as well. That man was way too beautiful and had handsome features without any flaws. He was like a jade man and was even better looking than many fairy beauties. If not for the fact that Su Zimo heard the voice of a man and met him suddenly, he would definitely not believe that the person before him was a man. Princess Chi Hong was already considered a rare beauty. However, she paled in comparison to this man. The appearance of the white-robed man was way too dazzling. At that moment, all the cultivators on the long street, be it male or female, were overshadowed. That's a man. Su Zimo looked at the person who had arrived and was somewhat puzzled. Brother Qingcheng. When Princess Chi Hong saw who it was, her eyes lit up and she was all smiles. She sprinted over and leaped into the embrace of that person. When he heard the words Brother Qingcheng, Su Zimo was finally certain. He glanced around. On both sides of the long street, there were still many cultivators who were looking at the white-robed man in a daze, as though they had lost their souls. Among them, it was not only female cultivators, even male cultivators were not spared. Qingcheng. Su Zimo thought to himself, this person's name is rather fitting. Her looks are indeed worthy of being devastatingly beautiful. Brother Qingcheng, why are you here? Princess Chi Hong raised her head and asked coquettishly. The white-robed man had a doting expression as he chuckled gently. You went out to cultivate alone and didn't return home for a long time. I must have missed you. Aren't I back now? Princess Chi Hong pouted her lips. In front of the white-robed man, Princess Chi Hong did not put on any airs as a princess. Instead, she spoke coquettishly. It was clear that the two of them were rather close. As the white-robed man chatted with Chi Hong, he raised his head and looked at the crowd from Cosmos Academy. He nodded slightly with a smile. The white-robed man's gaze seemed to sweep across the people of the academy, but he did not seem to neglect anyone. After interacting with each of them for a bit, he felt like he was bathing in a spring breeze. Princess Chi Hong chatted with the white-clothed man for a while before she came to a sudden realization. She pulled the white-clothed man to the front of the people from the academy and said, Brother Qingcheng, these are the elders of our academy. They are my fellow disciples and the top 20 earthly immortal realm geniuses in the academy's outer sect competition. After pausing for a moment, Chi Hong Infanta pointed at the white-robed man and said to the people of the academy, This is my elder brother. I am Xie Qingcheng. Greetings to the elders and fellow Taoists. The white-robed man faced the people of the academy and cupped his fists with a smile. So it's Countess Qingcheng. I've heard a lot about you. The elders of the academy looked at each other and hurriedly returned the greeting. Xie Qingcheng's cultivation realm was around the 4th or 5th level of the Heaven Immortal realm. Although she could not be compared to the elders of the academy, she was still the Countess of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. The elders of the academy did not dare to slight her. My title of Countess is just a title. Xie Qingcheng smiled and said, I am of the same generation as Chi Hong and can be considered as the younger generation of the elders. You can just call me fellow Taoist. We don't dare, we don't dare. The elders of the academy hurriedly declined. After his ascension, Su Zimo had met some countess and princes. Xie Qingcheng was the only one who did not have the airs of a countess and was very approachable. She was born in the royal family and had the blood of the royal family flowing in her body. It was indeed rare for her to have such a bearing and temperament. Brother Qingcheng, he is Su Zimo. At this moment, Princess Chi Hong pointed at Su Zimo, who was in the middle of the people of the academy, and said, Greetings to fellow Taoist Su. Xie Qingcheng cupped her fists towards Su Zimo again and said with a smile, Chi Hong has not returned home for the past few years. However, she often mentions you in her letters. Brother, you are still the best to me. You came to pick me up personally. Princess Chi Hong blushed when she heard Xie Qingcheng mention this matter. She hurriedly changed the topic and said, Second brother is at the teleportation formation and sent a guard to receive us. Second brother has to prepare for the 10,000-year meeting. Naturally, he has many matters to attend to and cannot leave. Xie Qingqing said, I am a leisurely countess and have nothing to do. Therefore, I came to pick you up. Let's go. I have already prepared a banquet in the palace to welcome all of you. Sure. Princess Qihong said, Elder Zhong, Elder He, Su Zimo, let's go together. The people of the academy did not decline and prepared to leave with Xie Qingqing. In the crowd, Su Shi looked at Su Zimo, who was among the people of the academy. His eyes were filled with envy, admiration, and emotions. After thousands of years, the scholar on the Dragon Abyss star had already grown to such an extent. With his own strength, he had suppressed the Shui family of the immortal Dao to the point that they did not dare to retaliate. He could even stand here and chat with the countesses and princes of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Su Xiaoyan's eyes were filled with yearning and desire. This is how we should be born as humans. Su Xiaoyan murmured softly. Forget it. No matter how much we fight, we can't win against fate. Su Shi sighed softly. We have not lived in vain since we were able to make a name for ourselves in the Aqua Cloud Sword sect. The Aqua Cloud Sword sect was only a Xian sect and had limited cultivation resources. Su Shi knew that the gap between the two would only increase. I almost forgot that I did not return this sword to you. Just as Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were filled with emotions, a voice suddenly sounded. Unknowingly, Su Zimo came before the two of them and handed the rusty iron sword to them. No. Su Shi hurriedly refused and said, Exalted Immortal Su, just now, you have helped us through this tribulation. This iron sword should belong to you. Keep it? Su Zimo smiled and stuffed the iron sword into Su Xiaoyan's hands. This iron sword was indeed a little strange, but he would not take advantage of the situation. Brother Su, just now Su Xiaoyan had been silent. At this moment he finally mustered his courage, clenched his fists, and said in a trembling voice. However, he suddenly felt that this was inappropriate and quickly changed his words. Mr. Su, can you take me as your disciple? Su Zimo was silent. It was fate that they could meet again here, but it was not to the extent that he would be tempted to take him as his disciple. Moreover, he had many enemies in the upper world. It might not be a good thing to become his disciple. I don't want to be your disciple. I can do some chores as long as I can stay by your side. Su Xiaotian hurriedly said. He looked at Su Zimo with a nervous and expectant expression. Afraid not. Su Zimo shook his head gently. Su Xiaotian's expression darkened. Beside him, Infanta Qihong explained, We are only outer sect disciples in Qiankuan Academy. We are not qualified to bring our servants into the academy. Don't be discouraged. Seeing that Su Xiaotian was a little discouraged, Su Zimo consoled him. You don't have to do chores. If your cultivation is sufficient, you can participate in the immortal sect selection that is held once every 100 years. You will have a chance to become a true disciple of the academy. Chapter 2189. The immortal sect selection was the fairest opportunity for the cultivators of the divine cloud continent. It was a great opportunity for them to rise to greatness. No matter where they came from, as long as they could pass the immortal sect selection and join the 4 major immortal sects, they would only have one identity in the future, immortal sect disciple. Even the outer disciples of the 4 major immortal sects would be superior to other cultivators of the same level in the divine cloud continent. However, it was extremely difficult to pass the immortal sect selection. The immortal sect selection, which was held once every 100 years, would only select 100 people. This meant that among all the Earth immortals on the divine cloud continent, only one person would be qualified to join the 4 major immortal sects every year. Su Shi was getting older and had lost his drive. His future achievements would be limited. In Su Xiaoyan's eyes, Su Zimo could see a kind of vitality and a desire for power, just like himself in Pingyang Town. However, the Water Cloud Sword sect was only a black sect with limited cultivation resources. Even if Su Xiaotian had this kind of temperament and talent, it would be difficult for him to make a name for himself in an environment where resources were scarce. Su Zimo sighed inwardly. He had another concern. This time, Su Shi and Su Xiaodan had a conflict with the Shui family. He had saved them because of his intervention, but there was already a grudge between the two sides. No matter how bold the Shui family was, they would not dare to make trouble for him. However, the Shui family was very likely to take revenge on Su Xiaotian and Su Shi. This was very likely to be a disaster for the father and son. The Water Cloud Sword sect would definitely not be able to protect them. Su Zimo was silent and lost in thought. If the two of you don't mind, you can follow by my side and start as an ordinary guard. Xie Qingqing came to Su Zimo's side and looked at Su Shi and Su Xiaotian with a smile. Even when facing Su Shi and Su Xiaotian, there was no arrogance or contempt in Xie Qingqing's eyes. She looked calm. Princess Qingqing. Su Zimo's heart jolted. Xie Qingqing smiled at Su Zimo and nodded. Su Zimo did not say anything, but the princess seemed to have seen through his difficulties. This decision was also to help him solve the problem. Xie Qingqing said, "In terms of cultivation resources, of course, the ordinary guards by my side are much better than those in black sects. As long as you are talented enough, you will also have the chance to become my guard in the future." Su Shi and Su Xiaoyan were stunned on the spot, unable to come to their senses for a moment. The beautiful duke in front of them was really out of their reach. The difference in status between the two of them was too great. Su Shi and Su Shi were somewhat in disbelief. Both of them instinctively looked at Su Zimo. Su Zimo nodded. Being able to follow by Xie Qingqing's side was, of course, the best place to go. Cultivation resources was only one part of it. More importantly, by Xie Qingqing's side, Su Shi and Su Xiaotian's safety was guaranteed. At the very least, they didn't have to fear the Shui family. "Thank you, Your Highness." Shui Qingqing's, Su Shi. "No need." Before the two of them could kneel, Xie Qingqing flicked her sleeve and emanated a shapeless force that lifted the two of them up, and she said, "I'll send someone to send a letter to the Aqua Cloud Sword sect in a moment to explain this matter. Both of you don't have to worry about it." Both Su Shi and Su Xiaodan were overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. They bowed to Su Zimo again with grateful expressions. They could see that if it were not for Su Zimo, Xie Qingqing would never have taken them in. "Your Highness." "Thank you." Su Zimo looked at Xie Qingqing and cupped his fists in thanks as well. Xie Qingqing shook her head and smiled. "It's nothing. Don't worry about it. I'm just a princess with no power. If they have a better place to go in the future, they can leave at any time." Su Zimo sighed. There were good people in the upper realm. Xie Qingqing helped him, but she did not ask for anything in return. She did not even give Su Shi and Su Xiaotian any pressure. "Take them back and make arrangements." Xie Qingqing instructed the two guards behind her. "Friends, this way." The two guards brought Su Shi and Su Xiaotian away. At this moment, a complicated and obscure secret text of a cultivation technique appeared in the minds of Su Shi and Su Xiaotian. Immediately after, Su Zimo's voice sounded in their minds. The divine elephant breath devouring technique was obtained by killing a prodigy. This cultivation technique is extremely domineering and powerful. When cultivated to the extreme, it's not inferior to many of the top cultivation techniques in the upper realm. As for how far you can cultivate this cultivation technique, it depends on your own fortune and talent. Also, after you cultivate this cultivation technique, you must not spread it to others. Su Shi and Su Xiaoan shuddered and looked at Su Zimo subconsciously. At this moment, Su Zimo had already left with Xie Qingqing with the rest of the academy, leaving only his back view. Su Shi and Su Xiaotian looked at each other with gratitude. On the other side, in Su Zimo's opinion, it was fate that he could reunite with Su Shi and Su Xiaotian here. He could not take Su Xiaotian as his disciple, nor could he bring the two of them with him. Since they entered the academy together, he imparted the divine elephant breath devouring technique to them as compensation. The cultivation techniques he cultivated were complicated, but many of them were inconvenient to spread and might not be suitable for the two of them to cultivate. Only this divine elephant breath devouring technique was the most suitable. If the two of them became the guards of the Countess of Qingqing, if they could cultivate this cultivation technique to greater mastery, they would stand out among the other guards. Su Zimo still remembered the monster Feng Xian who cultivated this divine elephant breath devouring technique. That day in the emperor's tomb, Feng Xian relied on this cultivation technique to escape from Yun Ting's murderous sword qi. In the end, it was also because the three prodigies, Su Zimo, Yun Ting, and Feng Zi, joined forces that he died on the spot. If not for that, even Su Zimo would have to expend some effort to suppress it. Brother, how many people from the academy are in the top 10 of the Earth roll this time? What are my, senior brother Yi Fei's, and Su Zimo's rankings? Qi Hong Infanta asked along the way. Yi Fei was the champion of the Qiankuan Academy's outer sect competition this time. It seemed like the editor had spent a lot of effort to collect information about the geniuses on the Earth roll. But he did not know what the 9 heavens that Xie Qingqing had mentioned was. Su Zimo was curious. He did not know if the Earth roll listed him and where he was ranked. He looked around and stopped at the middle of the bamboo board. The 49th bamboo board. Name, Su Zimo. Realm, Level 8 Earthly Immortal. Battle record. In the Immortal Sect selection 1,000 years ago, he killed more than 100 executioners of the Dajin Celestial Kingdom and became enemies with Duke Yuanzhua. In the end, he even alerted 2 of the 4 fairies, the Zither Fairy and the Painting Fairy, and almost got into a fight. In the end, he won first place in the Immortal Sect selection. Evaluation: good at a terrifying flame immortal art. He also mastered a movement technique that is similar to teleportation. His body is strong and his bloodline is ordinary, but he can kill strong enemies above his level. He cultivates the human killing sword art, the Supreme Profound Spirit Big Dipper Sutra. There is not much information about this kid's previous battle record. It is difficult to judge in the Immortal Sect selection. His cultivation level is too low and he is the only level 8 earthly immortal on the Earth roll. This might be his weakness in the Earth roll. For now, he is ranked in the top 50. Identity: outer disciple of the Qiankuan Academy, from the lower world. Seeing this, Su Zimo smiled. He did not expect the editor to have collected a lot of information about him. But when he was escaping from the Dajin Celestial Kingdom, almost no one paid attention to him and naturally did not know his past battle record. Qiankuan Academy has an earthen immortal called Su Zimo who cultivates the heaven-slaying sword skill. I guess Duke Yunting must be here because of him. A cultivator analyzed calmly. What is Duke Yunting trying to do? Does he want to snatch the sword skill in public? Qiankuan Academy also has a heaven immortal elder with him. Why would he be allowed to mess around? Duke Yunting has always done whatever he wants. I wouldn't be surprised if he attacked Su Zimo in public and snatched the sword skill. Speaking of Su Zimo from Qiankuan Academy, I also thought of something. The Dajin Celestial Nation is led by Duke Yuanzhua this time. I heard that Duke Yuanzhua has a deep grudge against Su Zimo. I heard that 1,000 years ago, this guy even offended the Zither Fairy. Do you think the Zither Fairy will show up this time? Dream on. The 4 fairies are all peerless figures. They are all perfected immortals. Why would they come to watch the Earthboard contest? I heard that the 4 fairies might be present at the Divine Firmament Immortal Conference. That is the top immortal conference in the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm. As the 3 great immortal kingdoms, the 4 great immortal sects, the various immortal Dao clans, and the major sects in the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm gathered, the main event of the 10,000-year meeting gradually began. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The Earthboard contest officially began today. Just as everyone's attention was attracted by the 2 reincarnated immortals, Tian Yuan, and the others, a figure suddenly stood up in the direction of the Zixian Celestial Kingdom. Clang. As this person stood up, the sound of a sword that made one's heart palpitate echoed in the world. Then, a sharp light shot up into the sky as if it was going to pierce through the sky and cut down the stars. The surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped a lot, and there was a chill. The expressions of the 2 reincarnated immortals, Feng Yin and Tai Hua, changed slightly and they looked sideways. Duke Yunting. Only Commandery Prince Yunting could emit such a terrifying aura with each of his moves. Duke Yunting stood up and instantly attracted everyone's attention. Many cultivators could sense that apart from the sharpness of Duke Yunting's sharpness, there was also an extremely strong battle intent. What is Duke Yunting trying to do? Many cultivators followed Duke Yunting's gaze and looked over. That seemed to be the direction of the Qiankuan Academy. Su Zimo, we meet again. At this moment, Duke Yunting's eyes lit up and he spoke slowly. Every word was like the sound of metal colliding with stone, sonorous and powerful. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, the scholarly green-robed cultivator in the academy who had no sense of presence attracted countless gazes. Many cultivators were dumbfounded and looked at Su Zimo in astonishment. What was that? What was that tone? Was this level 8 Earth Immortal from the academy trying to teach Commandery Prince Yunting a lesson? Commandery Prince Yunting's face darkened. This was because Su Zimo's words reminded him of the battle in the Archtomb. During that battle, Su Zimo had said something similar, such as, "You're still young." Then this person beat him up and he almost lost his life. When he returned to the Zhixian Celestial Kingdom, he was taught a lesson by his sister. Every time he recalled this experience, he would feel very unhappy. Duke Yunting's face turned cold and his eyes flashed with killing intent. He said coldly, "Don't talk to me in such a tone. I don't like it." In Yunting's heart, only his sister had the right to teach him a lesson. No one else had the right to do so. Suddenly, Duke Yuanzhua stood up and shouted, "Su Zimo, you're too arrogant. How dare you teach Duke Yunting a lesson?" Duke Yunting is the most powerful genius in the divine firmament celestial realm in the past 100,000 years. How can you humiliate him in front of so many people? Duke Yuanzhua seemed to be speaking righteously, but in fact he was fanning the flames. He wanted to provoke Duke Yunting into killing Su Zimo directly. Duke Yunting turned his head and looked at Duke Yuanzhua expressionlessly. He was young and arrogant, but he was not a fool. Duke Xieling, who was in charge of this 10,000-year meeting, saw that the situation was getting worse and the atmosphere was getting tenser. He had to stand up and say loudly, "My friends, please take a seat. Today is the day of the Earth Board contest. If you have any grievances, you can discuss them after the contest." To everyone's surprise, Duke Yunting's battle intent and killing intent dissipated quickly. He agreed and sat back down. Duke Yuanzhua had no choice but to return to his seat. After this small incident, the cultivators of the 4 major celestial sects also took their seats. The Earth Board contest was about to begin. Duke Yuanzhua looked at Duke Yunting, who was sitting opposite him. He rolled his eyes and used his divine sense to send a voice transmission. "Brother Yunting, today is the day of the Earth Board contest. You can't kill Su Zimo personally. Why don't the Zhixian Celestial Kingdom and the Great Jin join forces to kill this guy in the 9 heavens?" Duke Yunting looked up and looked at Duke Yuanzhua with a faint smile. He seemed to be interested in his suggestion. Duke Yuanzhua perked up and continued to send a voice transmission. "Don't worry, my friend. This time, not only the Great Jin Celestial Kingdom, but also the Flying Celestial Sect and the Zhixian Celestial Kingdom will join forces. If the 3 forces join forces, this guy will definitely die." Duke Yunting's smile became brighter. Haha. Finally, Duke Yunting threw his head back and laughed. Everyone from the academy was speechless. Although no one said it out loud, everyone hoped that they could pass the elimination round and enter the final Earth ranking competition to leave their names on the Earth ranking competition. If they traveled together with Su Zimo, the academy would most likely be annihilated. However, if they abandoned Su Zimo and went alone, how would they face the joint attack of the Dajin Immortal Kingdom and the Flying Immortal Sect? "Everyone, we will meet again at the Earth ranking competition." Su Zimo's eyes were calm as he smiled slightly. When their eyes met with Su Zimo's, for some reason, the restless hearts of the academy gradually calmed down and a sense of confidence was born. "Okay, we will meet again at the Earth ranking competition." Yi Fei, Qi Hong, and the others replied in unison. "Everyone, please be quiet. The elimination round of the Earth ranking competition is about to begin." At this moment, Commandery Prince Xie Ling stood up and said loudly, "I will announce the rules of the elimination round. First, the Earth-level deities who enter the ninth heavens cannot be older than 50,000 years old. The lifespan of an Earth-level deity is 200,000 years old. If one is older than 50,000 years old, he will not be considered a genius. Second, those who have left their names on the Earth ranking are not allowed to participate again. For example, the top 100 people in the previous Earth ranking competition were not qualified to participate in the Earth ranking competition this time. Third, no matter what happens, the cultivators who enter the ninth heavens are not allowed to use Dharma treasures or talismans. Otherwise, they will be obliterated by the rules of the ninth heavens. Everyone, please bear this in mind. The elimination mechanism of the ninth heavens was actually intended to test the cultivator's own strength without relying on external objects. In the ninth heavens, one could use divine secret arts, immortal spells, primordial spirit secret arts, and blood meridians. Fourth, in each space of the ninth heavens, there are various kinds of opportunities hidden in each space. They may be Dharma treasures or cultivation methods or secret arts. If the cultivators who enter the ninth heavens find these treasures, they can be kept in their pockets. Over the years, many Earth-level deities had fallen in the ninth heavens. Just the storage bags left behind by the fallen Earth-level deities would be an unimaginably huge treasure trove. Of course, such treasures were not very attractive to the top experts like Tai Hua and Feng Ji. If they wanted to search for treasures, they would inevitably waste a lot of time. The ranking of the elimination round was based on who ascended to the fifth heavens first and left their names on the stone tablet. If they wasted time before that, they would fall behind others in the final ranking. Chapter 2198. In front of the palace square. As expected of a reincarnated immortal, Feng Yin's speed is too fast. He's at the front. What kind of technique is that? Wherever Feng Yin goes, the wind will howl and extinguish the surrounding flames. The crowd exclaimed. Wind helped the flames, but Feng Yin's technique could prevent the flames from getting close to him. Look over there, Immortal Tai Hua's technique is not weak either. He's currently ranked second. Immortal Tai Hua formed an immortal seal with his hand and pointed at the sky. Immediately, a dark cloud appeared above his head, and heavy rain began pouring down. Immortal Tai Hua sped towards the center of the first heaven. The dark cloud remained above his head, and the rain poured down continuously. Before the surrounding flames could get close to him, they were extinguished by the rain. Oh my God, the rain summoning technique allows one to control their power so well. It's amazing! Not only that, even if we use the rain summoning technique, we might not be able to extinguish the flames inside. While they were talking, other cultivators also released their divine abilities to summon the rain. However, before the dark clouds could condense, they were dispersed by the flames. That scene made everyone in the square burst into laughter. The two reincarnated immortals had subdued the various forces and cultivators in the square with just a few moves. Currently, Han Tai of the Dajin Immortal Nation was ranked third. Yu Feng of the Mountain Sea Immortal Sect was ranked fourth. It seems that the prediction of the Earth roll of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom is quite accurate. They've just entered the ninth heaven, and they're already far ahead. Hey, this person's ranking is rising so quickly. At that moment, the crowd exclaimed. Everyone looked over and saw a crimson ray of light running amidst the sea of flames. The ray of light was so fast that there were tiny flames burning on her body. She seemed to have become one with the surrounding flames. It's the Red Rainbow Infanta. She's representing the Qiankuan Academy for the Earth Roll. The Red Rainbow Infanta has cultivated the Flaming Sun Sutra, the top cultivation technique of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Now, she's using the power of the World of Flames to increase her speed to another level. I reckon that the Red Rainbow Infanta is likely to be ranked in the top 3 in the first heaven. That's only temporary. There are still 4 more layers of heaven to come. Many cultivators were watching the elimination matches and discussing them at the same time. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. Over at the Zishuan Immortal Kingdom's side, Yun Ting remained silent. He drank strong wine as he stared at a figure on the mirror in the sky, and he revealed a trace of amusement. This sort of test should be very boring for you. Yun Ting muttered to himself. Of course, the most important reason for his visit was to personally challenge Su Zimo to a duel. Apart from that, there was another purpose. After his older sister returned from the Immortal Sex General Selection 1,000 years ago, her evaluation of Su Zimo had been extremely high. She often praised him in front of him, saying that he had many hidden cards and hadn't used his full strength at all. Yun Ting knew that his sister was trying to motivate him so that he would not slack off. However, in his heart, he was still extremely unconvinced. Therefore, he came this time to see how many tricks Su Zimo had up his sleeves. Although Yun Ting appeared to be arrogant and conceited, he would give his all in every battle. He did not dare to be careless and did not dare to underestimate his opponent. This time, when watching Su Zimo's duel, he wanted to know both himself and his opponent. Look, someone is dead over there. At this moment, a cry of alarm came from the crowd.